DePorter is back on Big Blend Radio today to share learning and studying tips to help make those grades easier, how to get there and on a fast track and really embrace everything that you're studying to make those grades, get those A's. And she is a longtime expert in the world of academic achievement and youth education. Bobbi is the co-founder of SuperCamp, which is the world's leading summer academic achievement program. It's really a life skills program where they do teach you how to study, how to learn, look at goal setting, how to have communication. It's a great program for teens and preteens, and it's happening now. Summer is here. It's warm. It's beautiful outside. She's also the president of Quantum Learning Network. And, I was talking about her also being the author of multiple books. One of them is The 8 Keys of Excellence, Principles to Live By. She also has a nonprofit, The 8 Keys of Excellence. It's a character education program for families. There's a special program for schools. I encourage you to check it out at 8keys.org. That's the number 8keys.org. And she's also the author of, or co-author of, Excellence in Teaching and Learning, the Quantum Learning System. She co-authored that with her friend Barbara K. Given. Keep up with her at supercamp.com. She is also one of our Big Blend radio experts. She's been on the show with us for over 12 years now, so it's always great to chat with her. Hey, Bobbi, Queen of Excellence, how are you?
I'm doing really good.
Awesome.
Sitting here in the sunshine.
Yeah, well, we're here in Florence, Colorado, historic Florence, a gateway to Florissant National Monument, Great Sand Dunes, the Royal Gorge. It's kind of like this beautiful, it's a historic downtown that's very beautiful. It really is. We've just arrived here pretty much. We came through Rocky Mountain National Park. And Bobbi, talk about the commitment key of excellence. I was going to baby myself out of not taking this Trail Ridge Road that goes over the top of the park, right, and all the way around to the highest point. It's like, I think it's the highest road or something in America. And I was just going to say, no, we're going to go on the other side because it's been snow and everything. And then I was like, this is my one chance. This is it, Key, right? But I committed to it, and I said, I'm going to do this. This is my one time in Rocky Mountain National Park, and we did. We went to this very top. And you're driving through literally a tunnel of snow, except for the top is not a tunnel, and it's this big, wide expanse. And we're driving above the forest, the tree line, and they're like, welcome to the snowfields. But we made it, and it was really, really beautiful. So it didn't feel like summer yesterday up there, or a couple days ago, but it does now. So, but that's the commitment. This is it. Yeah. Yeah. Have you been to Colorado?
Yes, we used to hold Super Camp there up in Gunnison, so we were up in the mountains for quite a few summers there.
Oh wow.
Yes,
it's a beautiful
gorgeous
thing. Yeah. Do you like mountain passes?
Not so sure I would like to drive them all the time when they're slippery, but
no, but it was that commitment, like, stay the course, So Super Camp, how many years now? It's since 1982, right?
Yes, this is our 38th summer, so
wow.
Yes. And what I just, love is going to the last day when the parents show up and talking to so many parents that attended the program themselves. So that's always fun to hear their stories.
Oh, wow. And so when does Super Camp start I know to us it feels like summer is now. Can people still enroll their kids in for Super Camp this year?
Yes, they can. Yes. And our first staff are headed off to the sites end of next week. So they are just coming right up. So we do have sessions with spaces in them. So it would be just calling and find out about it.
Oh, okay. And do you want to give everybody a little overview of this? Because I know we're talking about studying and learning, but that is, we've talked over the years about what Super Camp does is actually help youth learn and study, which is, before we brought you on the show, we were talking about that we wished we had that when we were in school, that somebody actually said, here's some tips on how to study. So is that a part of what happens at Super Camp?
It is, and so many of the students that are learning this, it feels like just almost an assumption that somebody would have taught this before, because that's what they say to us is, why didn't anybody teach this to me before? It makes so much sense, and it helps them so much, and it makes a shift, and and creates habits that, last their life. So, especially now that we know and we can talk to parents who have attended and talk to them about what they're still using that they learned at super camp.
Oh, wow, wow. So when
That's
we look
cool.
at and the eight keys of excellence, does that help in regards to studying? And like when I use the word commitment, don't you have to make a commitment to get to achieve your goals of making those grades?
Yes, the eight keys of excellence, they really create a core and define who we are. And that students feel good about themselves when they adopt the keys because they're proud of who they are. And when situations happen, they know how they're going to respond. And I think one of the most important ones in learning is that failure leads to success and
Mm.
that we learn from our mistakes. And because we keep saying we want them to participate, you participate at high levels and don't hold back because you're worried about making a mistake, but just um, do something, take action, and learn from it.
Mm.
That's how we learn and go forward. And I was just talking to a teacher last week that's gone through our quantum learning, which is our methods that we use, and we teach teachers in schools as well. And she told me instead of grades on the front of papers like ABC or
Mm. Mm.
80% or whatever it is, she puts the amount of growth. So if somebody was
Oh,
got a D
cool.
grade and went to a C, whatever percentage growth that was, she would put the percent of growth on the front of the paper big. It's like the
Nice.
growth, and then the grade is actually smaller on the inside, not as important. So no matter where a student is, she just wants to see growth. It's not like, oh, all the attention is just on the A students and, the D students
Mm.
just, not pay as much of attention. But when they grow and they do better, it's they want to feel good about themselves and to celebrate the hard work that they've put into that.
Mm.
I know when I used to get test papers back, when a teacher wrote a comment, that's where my eyes went first because
Mhm.
I always felt like number one, they actually cared enough to make a comment.
Mhm.
And usually it was a comment of encouragement like, okay, well you got this right, but over here you need so you're weak in this area, you might consider reading this book or that book. Those things are like a helpful. So a test is a learning thing, and it definitely is a failure leads to success when a teacher takes the time to do that.
Yes.
Not that I
Mm.
Yeah.
failed everything.
No. But it's taking action and knowing how to improve. And
mm,
that's a lifelong endeavor, and that's what we want to do for
mm,
the rest of our lives. So, and you can feel good about
mm,
yourself when you have that state of mind and you give that effort, and then you're always growing, and that's just what it's
mm.
about.
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. When when you look at going to school, we had these goals, and I look at what my childhood was like in regards to going to school was like as we traveled a lot, so I went to a lot of different schools. But I still had like this is what I want to achieve in life, and it was always this ongoing discussion Nancy and I had where, and I went through in the earlier stages, preteen. I wanted to be, a firefighter one day, a nun one day, a veterinarian one day, a photographer. Photographer stayed in there forever, but it changed. And then slowly, I grew up, had more experiences, and had this. I mean, I think this was a main thing. What are you going to do? What do you want to do? And you have all these possibilities, which for someone like me is overwhelming because I want to do everything. Because heck, why not? I would, if I could, I would do like every kind of job in the world just to experience it. So there's this dialogue of what to do, but then there's that conversation of okay, you need to go through these steps of school, and for a lot of time, I really didn't want to be in school because I was more into the experience than the book learning, and it was like, really, I love to read books, and I'll sit and read books for hours, but now I'm going to have to do this. How does how do kids now, like number one, in this day and age, handle the amount that they have on their plate? Because it seems like there's so many extra activities that you do, and then there's all the social media and everything being so when I was in school, it was like homework time was homework time, and everything. That's it. You're not allowed to talk to your friends. You're not allowed to go for a walk. You're not to go play outside with the dogs. You are going to sit and do your homework. Whereas now, I wonder how stressful is it for kids to actually buckle down and work towards their goals.
Well, there are a lot of students that are doing that, and the key word there is the stress that they go through
Mhm.
because they have so much homework and papers to write and such that sometimes they're up quite late just trying to get it done, and there's a good percentage of students that have that work ethic and are really working really hard. There's a student I talked to that they look at their interests. He said, I'm not really studying my interest, just like the book that you were talking
Mm.
about, but I look to see, okay, what classes do I need to take to get into the university to show this and that. And so they're really not working at their high interest in many cases. And
Mm.
just the amount of work that they have to do is overwhelming for a lot of students.
Mm. Does it get in the way of them actually going towards their goals and being able to achieve it? Are there ways that they can adjust that and prioritize?
Well, we talk about creating habits. We have what we call um, habits, and sometimes we call them ready, set, go.
Mm.
And
Mm.
the first part is that and these are habits that you have to practice and do over time because we want them to just habituate it as a way of being, just a
Mm.
natural rhythm of how they do it. And the first is prepare. And so we always talk to them about having a really good study space, whatever that looks like for them. Um, Students are different, just how they learn different in visual, auditory, kinesthetic ways. What is their study environment and how does it reflect their personality and what they're taking and how
Mm.
they do. So all their supplies are together. They have good lighting. We put posters on the wall of affirmations or content that they're learning, and we always have suggest that they have Baroque music without words that are soft in the
Mm.
background, and then after they prepare their state, it's like we say, prepare your space and your stuff. You know, is that we say get set is getting into a good state of mind, a focused state of mind, and so we have something we teach. It's called cue up,
Mm.
and it's pull up and picture, breathe and release. It's so
Mm.
simple. So when you're sitting there, if you just pull yourself up like something's pulling from the top of your head, and then allow a very deep breath. And as you're doing that, you picture what it is that you want. Here's what I want to have happen, and then you release. Release your jaw and your chin and your shoulders. It's like just doing your jaw and shoulders and just breathe for a moment
Mm.
and release.
Yeah.
And so it can take 2 seconds, you know, but you
Mm.
keep doing that. And the more you just keep doing that and you just start getting into this rhythm of staying focused, because they'll stay focused and start reading something and then, oh, I'm hungry, or oh my gosh, that text I got from someone I didn't answer that right, or their mind goes into all these personal things that are going
Yep.
on
Mm.
rather than the work, and
Right.
then it takes 10 times longer to do the work. So if you really have your space set, you get into this focused, alert state and think about what it is you want to accomplish. And then every time you get out of state, I always say, put a big red stop sign in front of you visually. I mean, just in your mind. Stop. It's like, because sometimes when people's minds start to go, they say, oh, I've got to come back. Oh, come back and focus. And they're talking to themselves rather than just stop, just allow a deep breath, and then go
Hmm.
back to your work and you're really focused. And boy, does that make a big difference for students. So it's
You
some of
know,
these habits.
Mm.
yeah. It's interesting to me because when as adults, we're at work, we can create our schedules around things, and so it's like I know, like I work better at 4 in the morning, 3, 4 in the morning than I do at
Mhm.
the end of the day. But
Mhm.
for kids, they don't often have that chance of change. But it's interesting when you're talking to me, it's almost like meditation because it's that monkey mindset that monkey mind chatter that comes in. And it's almost like it's like the devil and an angel on your shoulder. The devil's going, "Come on, let's go play outside." And the
Mhm.
angel saying, "Come back to work. Come back and do your schoolwork." There's that thing, that tug of war. But what's interesting, what you're saying to me, it almost feels like it's you're training your brain essentially
Yes.
to listen to cues. So it's almost like meditation, right? It's almost like hypnosis. But does that tie into quantum learning? That
Yes,
kind of
it does.
your
And I
your
love that
go ahead.
I love that you just said listen to the cues because that's why we call it cue up.
Oh,
Mm.
yeah.
It's a cue like for quantum, but it's cue in
Mm.
the way that it's like listen to the cues and like where are you and refocus and get yourself lined up in a cue ready to go. So,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, I really don't believe that you can do two things at once and do them well. I mean, we all try. Like, you're baking a cake or you're mixing the batter, but now you're also on the cell phone back and forth, back and forth. And I think that's one of the things that I found is the more you try to do at one time, the less you succeed. So
Yes,
it's
that
kind
is
of,
true.
yeah, it really is. And I feel like um, cell phones are a great invention, but I think they're also a huge distraction if you don't turn them off when you need to focus.
That's what we're
There's
teaching the students at Super Camp as well. We put out a
mm,
blog article and it said, in 1982 we taught them to turn their devices on. Now in
mm,
2019 we teach them how to turn them off.
yeah, and just live with the idea. I mean, it
Yeah.
takes a message, so you know.
I remember, Bobby. It was like I remember when we started our 1 hour walk group on Facebook, and I still have it up there. Like when we started this, you had Super Camp. I think it was a theme of one of the years. This was a few years ago, and it was like unplug to plug into life.
Yes.
Mhm. I love
Yes.
that.
Yeah,
Yep.
I know. I go back to Rocky Mountain National Park because there is something about when you are all in. And when I was driving down that road and I was facing a really serious, I really am not good with heights. Like I have vertigo, and I really could just, I feel like
Mhm.
if I cough, we're going to go down, and you
Yes.
don't want to look down there. And so I'm really, really, it was that, no, I'm gonna go and do this. And once you're in it, you're committed, or you're gonna be in trouble. But that clarity and not having a cell phone on, and I didn't
Yeah,
have it on for the entire day. Even when we got to
good.
an area where I could check, I was like, you know what? This is focus. We're going to come back. Nothing's going to die overnight. And if someone is dying, well, then sorry, but you know what I mean. You need to get
Yeah.
a grip on these things. That's kind of like so.
Yes.
Because I'm always checking, especially when we travel, and I'm like, no, this is one of those days you take and you embrace everything. And there's a real feeling of calm and balance and focus. And
Mhm.
when we did this, road, yes, I played my Bob Marley music. I played the music that I know allows me to focus. And maybe it's the
Mhm.
reggae beat, I don't know, but it chilled me out and I could focus and get down that mountain pass and make it go up and down and around. But there's
Yes.
that, and I feel like sometimes, and once you're in, you can't go backwards. And I think that's what, you know, it's so easy to go back. But
Mhm.
unplugging allowed me to just really be all in. And I can't explain that feeling other than it made
Focus.
it, I could do it, and I could really enjoy the scenery. And once I don't know how to explain it, but once I stepped over that fear and then was committed to continuing, that fear started going away. And I talk about the fear because I think there's a lot of fear in kids, like I have to make the grade, I have to do this, I have to make the team. And so that's that stress, but the fear comes in, and then that's when you open the door to everything coming in and messing you up instead of just staying on that path of focus.
Yeah,
It was
and
a
they
cool
say that
feeling.
there is no fear in the present. When you're
Mm-hmm.
fearful,
Mm.
you're afraid of what's going to happen in the future,
Mm.
or you're
Mhm.
fear of what you did in the past and the repercussions. But if you're truly in present time, There is no fear. And you used the key word. It was be. When
Mm.
you used the word be,
Mm.
uh, just being in
Yeah.
the moment.
Yeah, this is it. Live in the moment. Be, but you're there. You're all. It's like everything comes together. We talk about all keys of excellence. Like everything was in there. Now, students going to school, and a lot of times they'll go. And I know you teach teachers, and you put us in one of those classes once, Bobbi. And I was like, okay, I still remember that. And we still have our notes. We really do have those notes. And the mind mapping, I love that because you can draw out of what's going on in your head and figure things out. But so many times kids will go, and to this day I hear adults go, well, I had a really crummy teacher. That teacher couldn't teach, and so there's that. So what happens when a student is sitting in class and really wants to make this work and really has these high goals, but they just switch off when the teacher starts talking?
I know. Well, one is the ownership key and really taking
Mm.
responsibility for yourself. What do you need to do? What's not
Mm-hmm.
working with the teacher? So figure out what's not working and see what you can do about it. I know I had a teacher that just was not aligned with how I needed to learn, and I had a friend in the class who was doing fine in it. So I met with my friend afterwards, and my friend could teach me what the teacher just said. So it was
Mm.
like figure out a way and take ownership of it instead of
Mm.
blaming. That's for sure.
Ah, that's
It,
that's
that's really true. I remember taking trigonometry, and I was so like, I don't even know why I'm in this class.
Mhm.
I mean, it was like something you had to do for a science major, and it was just so out in left field for me that I really had to go to a former teacher that taught algebra to say, okay, I'm lost. And he was really
Mhm.
cool, and he said, okay, well, you got to think about it this way, because he knew me, and he was like, well, you're thinking from that side, you have to look at it from this side, and he
Mhm.
made it visual so that I could relate to the theory of trigonometry.
Yeah.
You have to go ask for help. You have to, find a different way of looking at the problem.
mm. Okay, so Bobbi, going on that, we're going to find a different way, which is true, right? That's a flexibility key. You want to get to your goal, and you think about the 8 keys of excellence. Um, so with youth, sometimes are they scared of going to their teacher and asking? Do you think?
Yes, I mean that's one of the things we teach them is
Mm.
go talk to your teacher. A lot of times they don't feel like they have the right. They think
Mhm.
Mm,
overthink it and like I don't have the right to do that. So just even giving them the suggestion and it's like, "Whoa, you mean I can do that?"
Mm. Funny.
And
mm.
then
Mm.
usually they get a good result when they do.
Mhm.
So that normally they do. And what happens if the teacher is like not receptive? And maybe the kid's been bad, and then they're like, "Well, you've been like this, so I'm done with you now." Does that ever happen? Like,
I
and
think they just
then
have to get through it and it's like hopefully they don't have that teacher again.
yeah, you have to buckle up and do it. So
Well,
where when you look at grades, making the grades, right? You want to. Here's the thing. I wanted out of school so bad. I made sure I got out. Didn't stay another year, right? In fact, by the time I graduated a year early because I wanted out. No, but it was actually just traveling and how that worked. But when when you go to school, where does that part come in where you start saying, I want to do something? Because that to me will help you get to your grades easier, right? Is if you care about your grades. Is do
It's
kids
really
care?
thinking about what's meaningful for you,
Mm,
mm.
what's leading towards your purpose,
mm,
and you may be interested in a lot of things, but what really goes down to your core and gets you excited. And if you reflect on it and look to see what you gravitate for, what your interests are, what do you
Mm.
feel like your strengths are, what gets you excited, and then what's out there that might match, what your interests are.
mm. I like that. So look at your interests and build from there. But that to me though is because I know so many, going to school. There's a lot of us who are like just not interested in learning and making the grades. And there's that thing that happens. Does it just happen? Is
Well,
that just kind of
we
the
look
natural growing up part that you
for
suddenly become
different
interested?
different times for different people. And it is that
Mhm.
with them we talk about too. What's in it for me? Like
Right.
sometimes they just buckle down because they want to get into certain university or some other. But what is it that motivates you?
Mm. Mm.
A-
Do you,
And it's also like, why do I need this subject? Like, what is this going to do for me when I get out of school? Do I need trigonometry? Apparently you do to pass certain things and get this degree or that. But how do you internalize something that you have already decided you're not really interested in or good at, and then it's like, okay, somebody tell me why I have to do this.
Mhm.
And I think a really good teacher can
Some of
answer
it
that for you.
Some of it is just practice too. Like I can
Mm.
get into a mindset. Well, I don't
Mhm.
think I'm ever going to use this, but it's good
Mm.
practice to learn something new. So what am
Right.
I getting
mm,
out of it is just the activity of learning something new in that process that I'm doing. So just
Yeah.
holding it in different ways, or
Mm.
if you can find that there's some value, you can find some value almost in anything that you're doing, and just focus on that. And if it's something that you have to do to get through, like you don't really have a choice,
Mm.
really,
Mm.
then it's just find something that you can think positive about it, find what that is, and then focus there. And
mm,
learning takes work.
Yeah.
It's not just, oh, it's fun and easy.
Yeah.
Instead of fun and easy, we talk about joyful and meaningful, and can be challenging. We want it to
mhm,
be challenging because we
Mm.
want to be always growing. So if you have something that's meaningful and challenging and you really get into it, you have that feeling of satisfaction at the end of the day. And that motivates you to want to do more. And it's also something, you use the rest of your life because
mhm,
there's a lot. You can find a career of something that's your passion and purpose, but there's a lot of activities that you still have to do. If
Yeah.
you're not into numbers and still have to do accounting for it, it's like you do have to do the work and have the discipline.
Mhm.
So
mhm,
discipline and motivation are both very much needed. And school's getting out right now for a lot of kids, and so they're getting the grades, and they're really into a time of reflection. Like,
mm,
oh, either they're feeling great about their year, that they did good, let's go celebrate. And most of the time there's some area that, oh, they wish was better or they could have done
Mhm.
more. And then going into summer, it's a great time to develop these habits. You can sit down and do a lot of reading during the summer, or fix your space, and
mhm,
keep focusing and read material that you're interested in, and do the visual notes and put them on the wall, and really go deep in a subject that is of interest to you, and make the most of it. But while you're in it, you're developing these really good habits. With the reading, in addition to preparing the space and then queuing up, getting into a space, we always say prime the mind. When you
Mm.
have to learn something, especially a new topic, because we learn by connecting to what we already know. So
Mhm.
getting into it and priming the mind, asking, what do I already know? What's out there that's kind of related to it? How can I make these connections? Preview the table of contents and preview pictures and captions, and just get your mind really primed for what you're
mm,
going
Mm.
to learn. Because then when you're learning new things, you get excited. It's like, here's a
mhm,
new fact. Oh my goodness, I saw a caption about that or a picture about that. Oh, I know that that's connected to something else that I've learned. And so it's like all those connections that are happening in your brain. And then when you're
mm,
focused on one thing and you're in that focused state, you get excited about it. And then at the end, it's always recap, review, make pictures of it. I love it. I was just reading an article just last week about Dr. Seuss, and it
mm,
Mm.
said
Mhm.
when he was writing, and he would start with writing, and then they said it's not very long before he started making, little illustrations and pictures in the margin, and then it got to where
Mm.
it'd be one big sheet and it would be all illustrations. So it would be like, yep, he's not the only one that knows the value of visual representation and making
Mm.
connections and seeing it in that way.
Yeah, and I think that's what's so great when when we were in the class with your teachers at Quantum Learning Network and learning that you could draw things out. It allowed
Mm.
us. There's this freedom in that, of
Mm.
freedom of expression and being who you are, and really discovery. And it wasn't about how perfect are you to draw this map. It wasn't anything about that. It was really real. And I think that's this thing too. I wonder, is there a balance? When you have illustration and you work with that, and illustration to learn from, but when you're doing it as part of your learning cycle or goal, vision boards or goal setting, and you're drawing things out, does it help because you're actually putting pen on paper? Right now, everything's so digital. I wonder if there's a breakdown from typing versus handwriting.
Mm.
Well, I feel there is, and could be
Yeah.
prejudice
Yes,
because
Bobby with
I
the
am so.
notepads. Do you
I
how big?
know.
Do you have like a big cupboard of notepads next to your
Yes,
desk?
because I'm so visual and the visual kinesthetic
Mm.
of seeing it and drawing it, and it puts an image into my mind. And I also like to see the whole big picture. Some people are very sequential and can just go part to part to part to part, small parts, and then add them up. But I like to see the map, the big picture,
Mm,
put it in color, see it, and then when I'm learning things, I have a place to put it. It's a
Mm.
pigeonhole. Here, I put this here. Oh, that goes there. Oh, that connects with this. So,
mm.
helps with the connections.
It it is really interesting that we're so computerized that the other day we bought a thank you card and we had to handwrite the message.
Yes.
Really old fashioned, and I was like, man, my handwriting sucks. I was like, how do you do that again? Yeah, and I feel like we wanted to do the old fashioned, like real card of thank you as opposed to a thank you email or a thank you email
Text.
card because we felt a personal, like the personal connection is there.
Mhm. It's like part
I
of
like this
you is
word
in it.
connection. I like the
Yeah.
connection word because I think that's everything that is life. Fire is connectivity. Water is connectivity.
Mm.
Everything is connectivity. And when you talk about that with learning, and then what you're talking about with handwriting, that means
Yeah.
connection. There's life
Hmm.
in connectivity.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, there's so many studies and report out now too about the stress on students of the technology that they're on their devices, pretty
Mm.
much constantly, and just what that is and the effects. So obviously, it's the future. It's here, and there's incredible. That's the future in the world, and that it's
Mm.
appropriate use. That's what we keep teaching students is, and having it come from them. What's the appropriate use, and what's the impact on you, and how are you feeling? So when you have
Mm.
just, a time when you're not on and you are looking people eye to eye and having a
Mm.
conversation, it's a different feel.
Hmm.
It is, for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. I think this is, to me, it's exciting because I also now the world has changed over the last 10 years. I mean, and I think back to our first conversations, Bobby, there's some things that definitely stay the same in studying, but the cell phone thing wasn't as big at that point. It was there, but it wasn't as crazy it is as it is now.
No, not at
Um,
all. It's certainly accelerated.
Yeah.
yeah, but there's some things that still are the same in regards to learning and studying, and embracing that. I wonder now, though, also because of technology, that kids are seeing all these different opportunities in life that we didn't see as much. It used to be you're either going to be a doctor, a fireman, that kind of thing. But now there's a different entrepreneurial stage going on. Like, you know,
Mhm.
entrepreneurs and small business used to be the backbone of the country. Now we have big, conglomerates and corporations. But at the same time, there's a new wave of entrepreneurism, and it's through internet and technology. And there's more of an independent contractor scene. And I think kids are being able to see this and think that there's almost more opportunities to really do what you want to do. And so it's this extra push of going for it and understanding, like doing your own business. Are you seeing any changes in youth with that?
They say yes, and that there's no guarantees, and it's not one path. So you talk about,
Mm.
knowing, oh, I don't know what my interest is, and I keep changing it. Well, for students now, that's going to be a lot of their life. Is that
Mm.
that they change. They change much more quickly than they used to too.
Yes.
You don't like it and you change. It's like, whoa, we used to call that discipline and stick around for a while, but
Mm.
that there's so many opportunities and just different mindset of
Mm.
going out after it. That just last weekend there was an article about schools are a lot of schools are hiring someone on staff to monitor the social media that's going on, and they look for
Wow.
signs of stress in students
Mm.
Hmm.
to
Wow.
intervene. So
Oh,
it's
that's
Well.
like,
really important because
yeah.
I mean, there's been.
Hmm.
I think there's also a fear now. Also going to school, there's well, gosh, we were even in a place recently where there's this beautiful historic building, that historic school, and the schools are not schools anymore because they cannot monitor safety. The building
Mhm.
doesn't have the safety requirements that are needed of today, and obviously this country has a problem of what's going on security wise, and sometimes it's students that have this the shootings and things like that. um,
Mhm.
so I think there's this amplified awareness, and I think students like at Marjorie Douglas, when you think about Stone, Marjorie Stone, I'm getting her name all muddled, but that school in Florida, that how they stood up and the youth stood up and talk about integrity and standing up and being something. I think that they were role models for a lot of youth now, that you can be something, you can do whatever you want to do, but there is personal responsibility. There is understanding and watching your friends, are your friends, having issues, because there is stress. There are issues in the world. Everybody comes from a different background too. So I think that heightens the awareness, yet at the same time creates stress. But yeah, I think what you're saying about being aware and watching social media, because
Mm.
just about every security thing or meltdown, breakdown comes from, you can see that something was posted on social media beforehand.
Right.
Mhm.
And I'm not
Mhm.
talking just about shootings. There's suicides, there's
It's
bullying,
it's
there's
it's
all of these
pretty much
things.
a space for a cry for help
Mhm.
that wasn't there before. Like if
So it's
you're
all
in
the different
trouble.
uses of it, how we can find things to move on, or is it
Mhm.
causing it in the first place? But it's back to that knowing who you are and
Yeah.
being secure in who you are, and then going through. It doesn't matter what it is in life. There's so many wonderful youth out there that are taking responsibility, and they are being flexible, and they are, learning from their mistakes,
Mhm.
and they're speaking up and communicating. And I love it's like finding their voice and speaking their voice.
Mhm.
That's just such a
Mhm.
beautiful thing, that a student has the courage, first of all, to know who they are and feel good about it. And then when they stand strong in that way and can express themselves, that's really inspiring.
And is that what happens at Super Camp when you have, everyone come in from different walks of life, come in, they're all in a different town most of the time, right? And on a university campus, that brings up to higher education. Where are you going in life? How do you connect with people that aren't your same buddies from school? So you're jolted out of your comfort zone. But when they go in there, and then it puts them in this field of learning together, and looking and sharing success, and almost creating like their own tribe in a way,
Yes,
away from their
it
usual
is.
one.
And it's a safe place, because it's
Mhm.
a safe environment that they're in, and they get to
Mm.
explore. And like you say, they meet people from all over the world. And one of the learnings too is having a roommate. What is that all about?
Yeah. Mhm.
And
Oh
then
wow.
living on campus, eating in the cafeteria, moving about, and just being, away from your family, and feeling like you have that sense on your own. And it is, as I say, very safe. But they're so active and on their own from morning till night, and they learn so much that you would never take that away from them. we just had someone. It was a post on social media. Actually, there's a boxing champ. He's a Brit, and somebody was running for prime minister there and talking about. I think that we should have 2 weeks away for all youth, and we'll put them together, and we'll give them learning experiences, and they'll do some outdoor activity, and they'll learn how to interact with each other. And there's a boxing champ that is a Brit, and he was reading this, and he responded, and it said, "Sounds like super camp to me, and I attended it when I was a kid." It was like, oh my gosh.
That's
Cool.
see, that's it.
That's awesome.
I had a meeting today with some a friend, partner, and I was like, well, in your organization, can't you do like super? Can't you be like super camp with the adults?
Yeah, I know. I
I was
know.
like, oh.
One of my favorite quotes
Mm.
from a boy at the end, they stand on stage and saying anything, and he got so emotional. He was so quiet, and he just said what the environment was like. It was like people got along. It felt peaceful.
Mm.
It's like I could speak up. And then he said, and what if the world was this way?
Mhm.
And it was just, it was a moment.
Yeah, I
But
bet.
how? Okay,
Cool.
so I want to just take that one step further. I know we have to go, but so you're in this warm environment, so you can really think things out. You can try things, experiment,
Mhm.
right? This is what I
Yes.
Mhm.
believe in, or whenever any of that kind of atmosphere where you can really, you know, sometimes you don't have that at home, right? Sometimes you don't have it in the school you're in, but when you're in a place where you get to go, hey, I really believe in this. I want to stand up. Maybe it's a poem, maybe it's an art piece, whatever it is, and be that and be yourself because being yourself is so crucial. Everything
Mhm.
is about knowing who you are at the end of the day. That integrity key of excellence. Um, but then you go out and here comes the real world, and then here comes someone who's mean. Do you go back and how do you balance that space of go back? Well, at least I know I have this foundation from here that was real because maybe sometimes super camp is the only place where you have this really cool experience and you go out and you can have something negative come up. Does the super camp experience remind you, hey, this positive place does exist in life depending on how you look at it and how you react?
Yes, it's because they know who they are. And I hear this
Mhm.
so many times. If something mean is said, instead of like just feeling horrible about it, it's like there's a reaction of I know me, I know myself, and that's not me.
Mhm.
So they don't internalize it, and that's a very powerful place to know who you are in the
Mhm.
world, and you define who you are. You don't let other people who could have a negative effect define who you are.
Hmm. I love that. And I think it's also
Yeah.
partnership and having the right people around you that are supportive, right? In business, we don't want to have people that are not supporting each other in your team. You want to have
Right.
the people that are all like, hey, let's go for it. And you're going to always have the yin yin yang people, but you want to surround yourself, birds of a feather. Like Nancy always said, this friend over here, if they're
Mhm.
not being, you don't need to hang out with them. She did that quite a
Mhm.
bit.
Exactly.
But
Yeah, but
she was like,
no, but
you know,
you always have a choice, and if something's making you miserable, you got to figure out, okay, what is it why is it making you feel bad and move on and change it. You don't have to
yeah.
stay there and be miserable, or you have
Yeah.
to
Just like
figure
we,
out, okay,
yeah.
so when I first started doing art and having to go to art shows and put your paintings up and then you sit there by your paintings and you hear what people say, um, sometimes it is really, really difficult to stomach the comments. Then you get everyone, oh, that's beautiful. And then you're like, wow, that really sucks, and it's like this roller coaster of emotions, and you have to somehow you, you got to pull within your gut to, okay, that's your opinion and this is mine, and it's okay that we're different, and if you want to verbalize it, that's fine. Could you just move on to the next artist?
Well, you take ownership of the situation. It's what
Well,
you want, but it
yeah,
doesn't.
you have to protect yourself against the non-thinking comments of people sometimes. You know what I mean?
It's
Where
how to hold it too, because so
yeah.
often a student can have 10 beautiful comments, but
Oh,
one bad one, they'll just focus on that and not pay any
Oh
yes.
yeah,
attention to the good
that's
comments.
all
So,
ages.
yeah.
That's all
Exactly.
ages. I think, but when you were talking about like, okay, you got a teacher that isn't really helping you, and maybe, and not, maybe it is a bad teacher. I'm sorry if there's any of those out there,
Mm-mm.
but I won't go into
You
that.
just don't
But
connect for
if
whatever
it's not
reason.
working, and so I've seen I've been through some stuff where some teachers were physically abusive to kids in the classroom with me in there, going, hello, this is way out of line.
Mm.
But I don't know
Yep.
how often that happens in this country, but I've seen it, been through it. But you take ownership of the situation, just like you were saying, Bobby. Isn't that at the end of the
Mm.
day, you want to get somewhere, you've got to take ownership. And if you look at that as an obstacle, right? And that's where you go, okay, there's my obstacle, identify it, and go and find who or what and where you can get the extra help you need,
Work
no matter
around
what
it.
it is.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
find your workaround. Yeah, it's like a detour. Detour in
Yes.
the
Mhm.
road. We know about those. Bob, Bobby, always such a good time having you on the show. Always insightful. And again, everyone, Supercamp, go now, supercamp.com. Also, the 8 Keys of Excellence Character Education Program. You go to 8keys.org. It's the number 8. Also, follow our stories. Bobby has sent us on two story assignments. We have stories of excellence and also youth success stories that we're gathering as we travel across the country on our Love Your Parks tour. If you go to loveyourparkstour.com, you'll see that. You'll see about our tour stories. You can click through and watch and read. And listen to some of the interviews as well. A lot is happening with us on this recent leg of the tour. A lot of youth stories talking about bullying, how to get past bullying, actually taking time out away from cell phones. We found all kinds of stories. And I have to say, just this recent trip so far, over the last, I'm going to say
Mm.
even going to Yuma and spending the time there last month, 2 months, I have to say that
Mm.
I am seeing communities pull together, and we see
Yes.
stuff on the news that's negative, but I want to say, as we're traveling, we're seeing a
There's more
lot of
good.
positive. It's more good than bad. And I
Yeah,
just
it
want to
is.
remind people about that because
Yes.
it's really true. Yeah,
Yes.
right?
It
Bobby,
is.
you see that
It's
with you?
true.
Yes,
It's
and
more
as
good
part of it,
than
I think,
bad.
is having eyes to see too. That there is wonderful things, and we work in our community with youth and with adults, and having them one
Mm.
to one and have conversations with them. Then you have more respect for them and see them in
Mm.
different ways.
Mm,
No, it's more good than bad. It really is. We're seeing that.
absolutely.
It's so
So,
good to get
Bobby,
out.
you know how we love to play music for our guests. Your song today, which we haven't played for you before, is "Stepping Stones." And it's funny because it goes from our pre-air conversation about taking things a step at a time. And
Yes.
this is from Kimia Penton, an amazing album. It's called "Where the Rain Falls." She was on our show last year in the fall. Everyone can go to her website, KimiaPmusic.com. It's KIMIA capital P music.com. And here it is, Stepping Stones. Thank you so much, Bobby.
Thanks,
Happy
Bobby.
summer.
Yeah, same to you. Thank you.
Thank
I know
you.
it's going to be a while since we talked to you again because she's off and running on Super Camp.
Yes.
Yes.
Here it is, Stepping Stones.
My first steps were a celebration, Mom and Dad watching me grow. With every orbit of the sun, there's much more I got to know. As the seasons changed and I was fully grown, I was molded and made by the love they sowed. Mom and Dad's story didn't always make sense. They came from a different time with different pains. But the courage that I stand on is the example that they gave. My first stepping stones were the lives they led. 2 degrees later, moved out to the city on my own, working at the corner office on the 21st floor, thinking how far I come and where I could go, taking in the whole world, but I'm missing home. The road I traveled didn't always make sense. I wish for a different time, a better place. If I was building bridges, if I built a fence, Mom and Dad's wisdom was my one defense. If the noise in the world drowned out the voice in my head, I find my way home to hear the words they say, those familiar ones, the laughter and tears wash away my fears. Mom and Dad's stories didn't always make sense. They came from a different time with different pains, but the freedom that I walk in is from the price they paid. My every stepping stone is on the road they paved. My stepping stones are from the lives they led.